Here's the procedure of solving these types of problems in section 310. In section 310, they give us an equation, and what they like us to do is to graph it. So the limitation here is that they're integers only. We're only going to use integers, so that's really nice. And sometimes they give us either a limitation on the domain or a limitation on the range. In this problem, they gave us a limitation on y. They say the absolute value of y has to be less than 2. Okay, so I'm going to pick values of y. So of course, I'm not going to choose 10. Why? Well, 10 is not less than or equal to 2, right? So you're limited in your choice for y. Okay, so I'm going to choose the absolute value of y has to be less than or equal to 2. So it could be 2 or it could be minus 2, right? So y, absolute value of 2 is 2 and the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. So that satisfies my limitation on the range. Okay, we also have to satisfy the equation. Okay, so if you, actually I'm going to separate these two because they give us different results for y, for x. Okay, so I'm going to pick 2 for y. So now my question is, what value of x satisfies this equation right here? Well, I think it's pretty easy for you. You would say minus 2. Why? Because minus 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. I have to satisfy this, right? So if I want to rewrite this, minus 2 plus 2 absolute value has to be equal to 0. Well, I think this does satisfy. These 2 points for x and y do satisfy the equation. Let's go to negative 2. Now remember, I chose negative 2 because it satisfies the limitation on the range, right? Okay, well, if I go to the equation, we have to satisfy that equation. So I know y is negative 2, right? Well, what value of x can we add to negative 2 to get 0? Now, I know this is in the absolute value, but it doesn't matter, actually, because they're going to be absolute. There has to be 0 in the absolute, right? There's no way you cannot get a 0 in here. So it's a 2. So 2 and negative 2 are the 2 combinations of x and y that satisfy this equation. Okay, are we done? Is there no other choice, or are there other choices for y? Well, I think there is, right? So I'm going to choose 1 and negative 1 for y because I think that satisfies this, right? The limitation, the absolute value of 1 is less than 2 and the absolute value of negative 1 is less than 2. Okay, so I could choose that y. Now I have to go to the equation and I have to find the value of x that satisfies the equation. It's an absolute value. Well, this is a pretty easy one too. So I'm going to go 1, negative 1 and 1, and of course if I go in here and I plug in the numbers into the equation, I should get 0, and I think I do, right? So you see, that is the essence of these problems. Is sometimes they give you a limitation on the range and you have to abide by that, but you also have to satisfy the equation, and that will give you the coordinates of the point that you want. Just to finish this problem, I think there is one more value of y that will satisfy this in this restriction, and that's 0. So what is the value of x that we have to satisfy the equation? Well, it has to be 0. So this is the procedure in all the problems, right? In all the problems. So if I say 0, 0, so now I don't think I have any other choice. Remember, I tried, if I try 3 or negative 3 for y, negative 3 for y, okay, I got it, negative 3 for y, that doesn't satisfy this, right? So there's no point even trying to plug it in, right? You're done. There's no other point. These are all your points. Just plot them and you're done. Okay, let's just try one more. This one's interesting because they just give us the equation. They don't give us any limit on x and y, right? So that's interesting. I mean, I guess I could pick any x and y, right? Well, what if I pick, now remember, we do have to satisfy the equation here, right? I mean, that's always a must. So if I pick, let's say 100 for y, what value of x can I put in here that will make this expression equal to 2, right? So if I try to plug in for x and I say x 100, did I get a 100? So 100, what value of y is going to evaluate, the absolute value, remember, is going to evaluate to 2? Well, you might say like 1 over 50 actually will do, but the problem is we only can use integers, right? So no fractions. So do you see the problem here is that you cannot, if you choose a certain value of y, or x, by the way, if I chose 100 for x, you still have the same problem. You know, there is no value, an integer value of y that will satisfy this equation. So you're limited by the equation, the domain and range is limited by the equation. So if you kind of think about this a little bit, I need to get 2, okay, so 2 looks like a magic number here, right? So I'm going to make x equal to 2. I chose that, right? So what value of y, if we plug it in on the left side, will equal 2 on the right side? So I think it's 1. 1 will work, right? 2 times 1, I'll just say 2 times 1. The absolute value of 2 times 1 is 2. So although they didn't limit us here in x and y, I had to find those limits myself, right? Actually, I have another idea. If I put 2 for x, I think I could put -1 for y, right? Because if I multiply these two out, I'm going to get the absolute value of -2, which is still 2. It still satisfies the equation. So this is another possibility. What if I flip it? What if I flip it? I say, well, what if x is 1? Well, now you kind of maybe hopefully getting this. I could put 2 for y. What if x is -1? I could put, sorry, actually, let me see, 1 and 1. Oh, I could have put -2 for both, right? It really didn't matter. I actually missed one here. If I said -2, I'm going to go back to -2 and -1, right? So 2 and 1, 2 and -1, -2 and -1, and one more. I'll say -2 and 1. I didn't cover that yet. Yeah, you see what I mean? So as long as I get 2, I don't care what the sign is, as long as we get 2 inside the absolute value, that point is good, right? Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with ones, right? So if I switch this and I say 1 and 2, and I go and let's say 1 and -2. Okay, I'm not going to finish this, but I think you should be getting the idea now, right? Is that if they give you a limitation, stick to that limitation, find the coordinates of the other value. If they don't give you a limitation, then the actual equation will limit you. So you have to generate this yourself, but you know, this is not too hard. We're dealing only with integers, okay? So try this and good luck.